Yeah, g'day, Dan from AMAX Automotive. Got a bigger job in this morning. I've got to pull a gearbox out of a car and replace the dual mass flywheel and clutch assembly. So what I'm going to do with you viewers is I'm going to break it down over a few segments, just all compiled into one video there so you can see what's involved. And yeah, a bit of an insight into the day-to-day life of a motor mechanic. Alright. Yeah, righto viewers. So the first step in removing one of these gearboxes is actually ascertaining the correct componentry for the car. So today, and as I previously mentioned in the video, I'm replacing a clutch and flywheel assembly. So that will be incorporating a clutch plate, a throw-out bearing, and also a pressure plate assembly, along with a flywheel. So we'll just have a quick look, pan around here. So the genuine parts there. Genuine Mazda parts, throw-out bearing assembly, clutch disc, and then yeah, we've got the new flywheel sitting over here on the bench. So that's sort of the first equation. All right, easy enough done. Second equation, we move over to the vehicle. We start removing componentry to get access to the gearbox and remove the gearbox. I'll just pan the camera around here and just show you what we've got. So here's the gearbox and whatnot out of the vehicle. So bit of a unit. They're not as big as a patrol box, but they've got enough weight in them for one person to manage, so they're not too bad. And there's a clutch assembly there. That's got a dual mass flywheel on it, so unfortunately when it comes to machining it's a little bit difficult, so we always tend to replace them. So yeah, from there I'll remove the clutch assembly, and then we'll end up fitting the new flywheel, the throw-out bearing, clutch plate and pressure plate assembly, and then we'll reinstall in a reverse sequence. So a bit of an insight as to what goes on there with driveline componentry repairs. Again, it's sort of good for the average consumer to see what goes into these jobs. There's a lot of manual handling in these jobs. It's quite a bit of a tough one, especially when you're working on your own. But thankfully we've got all the appropriate equipment and lifting apparatuses and stuff to help us out. But yeah, you can see why why it's a pricey job. But there's a lot of things too that come into this. There's a lot of little tips and tricks and things that go into this. It's not just as simple as removing this componentry. There's set sequences for flywheel bolts. There's the potential for the rear main seal to be leaking, which we'll find out once we get this apart. There's also torque sequences for pressure plate bolts, setting up the throw-out bearing assembly correctly, making sure that the front of the input shaft bearing casing is, the casing and the slide for the throw-out bearing is not pitted or grooved or marred in any such fashion, and setting them up correctly, and actually setting the clutch so it's got the correct amount of free travel and throw. So yeah, there you go viewers, something that you don't get to see every day. It's always, you always get the big bill, but you never actually get to see what goes on in this sort of scenario. So I thought that was the job that I'm doing. I'll just pan the camera around here. Righto, here's the dual mass flywheel. Now, here are the bolts I've got to pull out. As you can see, a flywheel spun on itself, or the basket has. It's had a bearing failure and it's spun, and it's now stuck on the top of those bolts, and it's been rubbing. So there you go. There's a little bit of extra time I'm going to have to spend. So just a good one to show you. It's always there's always something to catch you out. Righto.